Welcome back to Old Charles, the channel where we uncover the fascinating history and value of coins from around the world. Today, we're diving into the story of a British classic, the United Kingdom 10 new pence coin from 1974. This isn't just a piece of metal, it's a piece of British history that connects us to the decimalisation era, Queen Elizabeth II's reign, and the transformation of the UK currency system. To understand the 1974 10 new pence, we have to rewind to 1971, a year that marked a major turning point in British monetary history. Before decimalisation, Britain used pounds, shillings, and pence, with a very complicated system. 12 pence made a shilling, and 20 shillings made a pound. But in 1971, the UK officially switched to the decimal system, simplifying currency into 100 new pence to the pound. The 10 new pence coin was introduced as part of this change. It was equivalent to the old 2 shillings coin, and in fact, the new 10p and the old florin were exactly the same size and could circulate together. This was a way of making the transition easier for the public. By 1974, the 10 new pence had already become a familiar coin in circulation. Millions were minted that year, featuring the young portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. For collectors today, the 1974 issue is part of that early decimal coinage series that many people hold with nostalgia, especially as the larger-sized 10p coin was eventually replaced in 1992 with a smaller, more convenient version. Now, let's talk about the design. One of the most recognizable in British coinage. On the obverse side, we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This portrait was introduced in 1968 and used on coins until 1984. The Queen is shown wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a famous piece of royal jewelry. Around the edge, the inscription reads, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1974 *, which stands for De Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, Latin for, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. On the reverse, designed by Christopher Ironside, is the image of a lion passant guard ant, the crowned lion of England, symbolizing strength, courage, and national pride. The words, new pence, are inscribed at the top, and the value 10 sits boldly at the bottom. This design stayed until 1982, when the inscription changed from new pence to simply 10 pence to reflect the coin's established role in the decimal system. In 1974, the Royal Mint struck over 250 million 10 new pence coins. Because of such a high mintage, most of these coins entered everyday circulation. People used them for decades, and because they were made of cupronickel, 75% copper and 25% nickel, they were durable and could last in circulation for a very long time. However, as time passed and the smaller 10p coin replaced it in 1992, the large 10p coins, including those from 1974, were gradually withdrawn. Today, they're no longer legal tender, but they remain collectible items, especially for those interested in decimalisation history. Now, the big question, what is the 1974 10 new pence coin worth today? Because it was minted in such large numbers, circulated examples are very common. In average circulated condition, these coins are usually worth around 10 to 50 pence to collectors. However, in better conditions such as extremely fine or about uncirculated, the value can rise to around £1 to £3, and if you happen to find a coin in brilliant uncirculated or proof-like condition, perhaps one that was part of a mint set and never spent, the value could go up to £5 to £10. Sometimes even more depending on demand. It's important to remember, the real value often lies in the condition. A coin with scratches, wear, or tarnish will fetch only a small premium, while a well-preserved example can be much more desirable to collectors. No wear, mint luster intact. Value can be £5 or more. If you own a 1974 10 new pence coin, check the details of the Queen's portrait and the lion design. The sharper and cleaner they are, the higher the coin's collectible value. Collectors love this coin for a few reasons. 1. It's part of the first generation of decimal coins ** in Britain. 2. It represents the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II in her younger portrait. 3. Its large size and bold lion design make it an attractive display piece. Even though it's not rare, it's a coin filled with historical significance. Many collectors try to complete a set of decimal coins from the 1970s, and the 1974 issue is always included. So there you have it, the United Kingdom 10 new pence coin from 1974, a coin born out of decimalisation, featuring a proud British lion, and still holding a place in the hearts of collectors today. To truly understand the story of the 1974 10 new pence coin, we must step back not just to the 1970s, but centuries earlier into the evolution of British money. For hundreds of years, Britain used a non-decimal currency system inherited from medieval times. £1 was divided into 20 shillings, and each shilling was 12 pence, meaning there were 240 pence to the pound. While this worked in the past, by the 20th century, it was seen as complicated, especially as other major economies like the United States and most of Europe had already adopted simpler decimal systems. Discussions about switching to decimalization began as early as the 19th century, but the idea gained real momentum after World War II. By the 1960s, the British government recognized the need to modernize its economy, trade, and financial systems. Finally, the decision was made: Britain would switch to a decimal currency on 15 February 1971, a date now famously known as * decimal day. The 10 new pence coin was one of the cornerstone coins of this reform. It was equivalent to the old 2-shilling florin, a coin that had been in circulation since the 19th century. In fact, to make the transition smoother for the public, the new 10p coin was minted in the same size, weight, and metal composition as the florin. This meant that people could continue using their old 2-shilling coins interchangeably with the new decimal coin. This clever move helped avoid confusion and made the decimal system easier to accept. By the early 1970s, the British public had gotten used to the new money, and the 10 new pence coin became a familiar everyday piece. It was large, sturdy, and carried the noble design of the crowned lion, a symbol of English monarchy and strength. Now, focusing on the 1974 issue specifically, this was a time of significant change in the United Kingdom. Britain was in the midst of economic challenges, with high inflation, strikes, and a difficult political climate. The country had just joined the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1973, which later became the European Union. The early 1970s were years of transition, both politically and economically, and coins like the 10 new pence became symbols of national identity during uncertain times. In terms of coinage history, 1974 also stands out because it was one of the years before the Royal Mint introduced changes in wording. Up until 1981, the 10p coin still carried the inscription new pence. Only in 1982 did the design change to read 10 pence. This means that the 1974 coin is part of that original, historic, new pence series that directly connects back to the first years of decimalization. Another important historical note is about the coin's metal composition. The 10 new pence was minted in cupronickel, an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition was standard for mid-20th century coins and gave them durability and resistance to corrosion. However, as production costs and inflation rose in later decades, the Royal Mint eventually moved to cheaper plated steel versions. So the 1974 coin represents an era when coins were still solid and heavy, a far cry from today's lighter coinage. Fast forward to 1992, the United Kingdom decided to make the 10p coin smaller, more practical, and easier to handle. The large-size 10p, including the 1974 version, was demonetized and withdrawn from circulation. That means they are no longer legal tender today. However, they live on in collections as a reminder of the bold, oversized design of the early decimal years. In short, the 1974 10 new pence coin is historically important because it captures a unique moment in Britain's monetary journey. When it comes to coin collecting, condition is one of the most important factors that determines value. The 1974 10 new pence coin is no exception. Since millions of these coins were minted, most examples are common, but the way they've aged over the last 50 years makes all the difference. Let's break down the grading scale and what to look for. In conclusion, the condition of the 1974 10 new pence coin is the key to its collectible value. While most circulated examples are common and inexpensive, coins that have been carefully preserved or come from mint sets are far more desirable and can be worth several times their face value.